Hey, I'm Sam Albert, driver of the number 457 DirtFish Subaru STI. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the car, what we've done to it to make a competitive, restricted four-wheel drive class rally car. So just kind of start from the front of the car. One of the biggest upgrades that you can do to a car is build, a strong, stout motor. So in our class, we're allowed to touch the bottom end, but not the top end. So we've basically had the freedom to go to any OEM Impreza motor. So we opted to use the 2-liter EJ20 or EJ207. With that, we also have to use an OEM turbo. So in our case, we're using the VF36. So this kind of package is very similar to what Vermont Sports Car ran in the 2000s with the EJ207 and the VF36. Really good combination. Lets you kind of have a longer power band versus the 2.5 liter. So it works out really well. Lets us have a little bit of a more top end for those longer straights, but plenty of power with the quick spool with the twin scroll on the VF36. Additionally, we have the Rocket Rally cooling package that they use on both Antoine's car and on the Crosstreks. So it's a split design with the intercooler up top and the radiator down below. And then we added in this oil cooler with fan to help keep our oil temperatures down. It keeps everything running at that optimal temperature, which is really good considering the problems that we had at Oregon Trail. To kind of help with all this cooling, we've added some vents on the hood, which we're allowed to do within the class rules. So we have a vent up here that is right above that oil cooler, so the fan blows that hot air up and out of there. We have this reverse scoop in here that evacuates the air that flows through the intercooler and radiator. Instead of having the OEM hood scoop, which would actually pressurize the engine bay instead of letting that airflow, and so we get a little bit more efficiency that way. And then an additional vent over on the turbo side that lets that hot air radiate up and out of the hood from the turbo. Moving on down, as you can see, we've got our Hoosier tires mounted up to our Method wheels. Both great sponsors that we have supporting us this season. These Hoosier tires have been working great so far along with these wheels, really solid, stout wheels. If you kind of look inside, we've got our performance friction brakes. Really awesome brake setup that we have here. Really big design. They're 4-pot all the way around, and they're sized specifically for rally. With our 2-piece rotors in there, so we get a little bit cooling out of that package while maintaining really, really good brake efficiency. Beyond that, you can see we've got our Riger Racing suspension. These aren't our standard ones that we use on the school cars. They're a little bit more optioned out, so we have things like the double piston, the rebound control valve that helps control that rebound, especially off of big hits and jumps and things like that. All right, so heading on back a little bit more, we've got this carbon fiber roof scoop that just goes down to a vent that's inside the car. I'll show you here in a bit. That's going to feed, both me and Michelle some cold air as we're on the stages since we don't have AC. And then all around the back of the car, we have our Plastics for Performance Lexan windows with our little slider kits on both sides. So Michelle can hand out our time card. I can open that up and get a little bit of venting while we're transiting around. But generally speaking, we close those up when we're on the stage to keep the dust out and keep that cabin pressurized too. So with that open, that air that gets forced in pressurizes the inside of the car a little bit and keeps the dust out. So it's a kind of neat feature. That's why we like to keep all the weather stripping and keep the car pretty well sealed. That way we keep a little bit of pressure and that keeps some of the dust out and then makes it a little bit easier for me to drive. All right, so I'll open this door here, kind of show you the inside of the car and what we got going on. So if I come around here, basically, we'll start with some of the controls. We've got our tilt and pedal box here. So we got a floor mount pedal box. With this car, we moved the seat back about 6 to 8 inches than the normal stock location. So that allows us to mount that right on the floor. Got a little false floor for my feet to rest on. That's really nice having those floor mount pedals. It makes the pedal feel a lot better. And then we can make some adjustments with our little yellow knob on that center console there, so I can adjust the brake bias on the fly. For my dash, I like to keep it really simple. So I just have a gear indicator and a shift light. The shift light not just tells me when I'm getting to that time to shift, but it also gives me the warnings that the Motec has. So if we start overheating or the oil pressure is low or anything like that, some warnings will flash on there and cue me in that lets me know that there's a problem. You know, in here we've got our OMP wing seats for both me and Michelle. Wing seats are super critical nowadays with how, you know, crazy crashes are. You know, it keeps that head protected in case of a rollover or big impact. So wing seats are definitely a huge plus. As we kind of go into the center, you can see we have our PPG sequential gear shift lever stuck there right next to our handbrake lever. So with the PPG, we're allowed to have a sequential gearbox in the class, but it has to be within the OEM case. So there's only a few manufacturers that offer that option. In this instance, we're going to use the PPG, who we're partnered with, and providing a really awesome, great gearbox. It's got a load sensor on that gear lever, so you never have to lift that gas pedal when you shift. So you pull it, the ECU detects that you're pulling that lever, tells it to do a temporary cut, reducing that load on the dogs, and then you're allowed to get that shift in. You can grab that next gear. Happens in about 50 milliseconds. So pretty quick shifting, really awesome technology that we're at these days. And then we've got our center, we got a Motec C125 display. That's where all of our critical information comes up. We put in the center there so both Michelle and I can get our eyes on it. Let that responsibility kind of fall to Michelle. She's kind of used to now, you know, making that part of her sequence of checking the road, check the Motec display, and then go back to her notes, and just kind of makes that a loop. So if she sees any warnings pop up, she can clue me in, let me know if I need to change anything or whatever. It also has all our settings on there. So if I'm changing our anti-lag settings, our diff control settings, anything like that, that's all on that display, so I know what mode we're in. Aside from that, right in the center, we have our main ignition switch and then a Motec CAN keypad. So that little keypad in there just communicates to the ECU just by 2 wires. So it uses that CAN bus to communicate. Really cool and efficient way to wire things up with our Stilo intercom down there too. So aside from in there, you know, it's just the basic stuff. We have our triangles, fire extinguishers, spares that we keep in the back. Kind of point out our little setup back here. So with this car, you know, we just have our spares back here. We carry 2 wheels and tires. Part of that is, you know, to make sure that we're well equipped for a lot of the rough stages, especially that, you know, coming from Olympus Rally and some of the harsher East Coast events. It's nice to have 2 spares, and we can afford that luxury here. Put a little bit more weight kind of in the back of the car. It kind of helps to balance it out, helps it fly straight if we're on a jump, and just helps with the overall weight transfer and control of the car. Earlier I was talking about, you know, the Rigers here. We've got, you know, some of our adjustments that are really readily available just on top. So if I need to make adjustments on the fly, we've got our rebound set up there. And then if I need to control any of that low speed or high speed compression, it's just down on the body of the shock. So just get underneath the car, get a screwdriver in there or on the bigger knob, and I can make the adjustments pretty much on the fly, which I do pretty frequently from stage to stage. If I know it's, you know, going to be a little bit faster, generally kind of stiffen things up. If it's a really technical stage and I need to get that car to move around a lot, then I'll soften it up. Aside from that, you know, we've remounted a couple things. If you're looking here, we've got our washer spray, you know, mounted just kind of centered a little bit more forward of the car, so it's out of the engine bay, just kind of take some of that crowding out. I'll kind of show you on this side of the car. You know, both Michelle and I have Camelbacks, that way we stay hydrated. It's you'd be surprised how dehydrated you can get when you're driving a rally car for, you know, a whole weekend long. You know, having that water available is always a good thing. And then aside from that, you know, go on and talk about Michelle's side over here. Excuse the wires, we're doing some programming and checking things out, but you know, she's got her footrest so that she has a nice prop for her knees so that she can lay her notes on, so it makes it easier, more comfortable to read. She's got her Monit display here so she can track our mileage in the stage, along with a little remote switch here on the door. So since we sit so far back, we can't really reach anything on the dash, so having those switches down closer to us makes it a little bit easier for us to control. You know, aside from that, that's the rally car in a nutshell. There's some things underneath the car I could show you, you know, with our skid plates and underbody protection. We use a carbon fiber drive shaft to reduce a little bit of weight, and then you know, tons of reinforcement in the car so that it's a little bit stronger and can take the abuse that Stage Rally has to offer to these cars. So yeah, it's a great solid car. The DirtFish guys made a really awesome car. We made a lot of revisions from last year, so just to, you know, kind of be the most competitive car that we can have. So thanks for watching, appreciate it, and see you at the next rally.